Hello, and welcome to the first presentation on the Kaleido Information Engine in Teradata. This presentation is entitled Building Data Warehouses Fast, a model-driven approach for faster time to value. We all know that Teradata builds fast data warehouses. Over the next several sessions, we're going to talk to you about how Kaleido can help you build those data warehouses fast. The Kaleido Information Engine is designed to help you rapidly develop and deploy a high-quality data foundation for analytics in 90 days or less. Spinning up data warehouses and building a high-quality foundation for analytics in such a short period of time provides a lot of value to Kaleido customers and to Teradata customers. So let's take a look at this. Right, here's some things you've never heard before. Why does it take me so long to get a report? There's a lot of data, not enough information. Yet, these aren't new questions. These aren't new problems that are facing business intelligence and analytics. These are things that have been around for years. Problems that business intelligence and data warehousing were designed to address to begin with. And they're not going away. Demands for information are growing exponentially. You're asked to do more with less resources. And the need for information, the value of that information, needs to be maintained and driven into the business. So why does it take so long? Why does it take so long, and why do these questions still remain? As we look at a traditional approach to building data warehouses, we see that there's many steps that need to be executed. And there's a long time gap between when a compelling business event occurs, like a shift in the market or a new product introduction, to when a decision is made about how to capitalize on that event. Well, we have all of these steps that need to be executed. We need to look at our requirements and analyze them. We need to build out the appropriate models and integrate our data, and then enable access to that data through the BI layer, and then on to testing and release. Now, as time goes by and you're looking at this cycle of 12, 18 months, sometimes even longer, the value of the decision goes down. Right? The game has changed. The rules have changed by the time you get to when you can actually make a decision based off of the information that you gathered up front. So what happens? Does business sit idly by and wait patiently for you to go through this cycle? No, absolutely not. What they do is they find another way to do this. They go out and they get a data feed from some other source. They cobble together information off of various reports and spreadsheets. And they go down a path using ungoverned data of suspect quality. They give rise to the whole notion of shadow IT and create their own processes for doing analysis. Because business can't wait. So what if we were able to take and compress that time frame? Not suggesting that we skip steps or that we do things in a shoddy manner. We're talking about leveraging the information that we gather up front in that requirements and analysis piece and getting more out of it. Shortening the time that it takes to integrate data and creating a more cohesive, tightly integrated environment where we leverage the information gathered up front to drive automation and create much faster time to value and much greater benefit of the overall business solution. So let's focus in this presentation on requirements analysis and the modeling piece of it. Everything falls from the model. So if we don't gather our requirements and leverage that information up front, we're starting out behind the 8-ball. So let's take a look at some of the things that happen in that upfront piece. In our traditional approach, we have this whole notion of sitting down in a collaborative way, business and IT together, to hammer out those requirements. From those requirement sessions, from that collaboration, we'll usually create a conceptual model of sorts. Something that lists out the business requirements and maybe produce a data dictionary and get that business glossary going. Then the first thing that we do after that is the data architect gets involved and starts to translate those requirements into a logical data model. Well, oftentimes something gets lost in that translation. And it's really because the business doesn't fully understand what the logical model represents. They're looking at something that's designed to be a roadmap for technical implementation. So the whole concepts around business get lost. So the next step in the process isn't to bring it back to the business, though. We take it even further away from those abstract concepts. And we take it all the way down to the physical data model level. In fact, usually multiple data models. Your DBA sits down, they take the logical model, you're building out the tables and attributes for staging tables, for your integrated data layer, for your star schema, for your data marts, or whatever approach you're taking. So now you have at least 3 separate levels of models and potentially 4 or 5 different models. You've got your conceptual model, which the business understands. You have your logical model, which is derived from that and translated from those requirements all the way down to the physical layer. The problem that happens here is the communication pattern is broken. The business concepts, the things and activities that business people think in terms of, are now represented by tables and attributes in the data models. Right? There's a failure to communicate between the groups. So while IT has done their best to translate that information to a set of data requirements, business can no longer understand the models and therefore can't confirm or deny if what they're seeing actually represents their business requirements. But all hope is not lost, right? There are ways to go about doing this. And this is where Kaleido steps in. We created a method and an easy-to-use business information modeling tool to allow you to capture business requirements in business terms. It produces a model that's understandable, not technically oriented, and enables an iterative modeling process to bring out the full requirements of the business. Because the model is driven toward the business users own the model. So rather than see things like tables and relationships in that sense, what they see is allocated cost by both individual and corporate clients. And those constructs now can be modeled in business terms so that the business users fully understand what they're seeing and can then validate the requirements. So as we start to develop this rich business information model, Kaleido Information Engine steps in from behind the scenes and takes and translates that information for you. So what happens is, in the old traditional way, you have a data architect translating business requirements into logical data model. In the Kaleido Information Engine, we directly translate from the business concepts into the physical structures that are needed. We look at the activities described by the business and understand that they need to become transactions in an underlying data warehouse. We look at contextual objects like the things that you view transactions by, and we translate those into the reference data, the master data that is required to do analysis on data. We drive the physical from the conceptual. Now, this is not completely automated. There's a couple of things that you need to do here. First, you need to find and press the start button. Right? I say that only half-jokingly. Many of our clients do refer to this as the easy button because it does make creation and deployment of a data warehouse very easy. When you push that button, a lot of things happen. A whole slew of automation kicks in. We automate the creation of the standard Teradata tables. We automatically create the landing zone and the staging tables, all the way down through the warehouse schema and the semantic layer for your BI and reporting tools. So all of these steps, all these mechanical steps that you normally would have to do in a typical data warehousing engagement, the Kaleido Information Engine does automatically. Now, this is not a one and done. This is not a fire and forget exercise. As we all know with the data warehouse, it's a dynamic, living, breathing picture of the business. The same is true with the information model. What's the first thing that happens when you show some results to your end users? Right? You get some data out and you start to show them reports. Well, they inevitably ask for change. So in our case, you're going back and updating the model. You're not updating any code. There is no code to update. You're updating the model, you're changing the way it represents the business. So that model evolves based on the changing requirements of the business over time. And we ensure that the warehouse stays in sync with the model. So in this case, you take the model that you've started with, you're showing your business some results from that, and they'll ask for something new. So, wow, that's great. Now I want to see my distributor sales by channel customer. Additionally, make use of Teradata's logical data models. The logical data model contains a lot of information. It's a great roadmap for physical implementation in the Teradata environment. It can also become the roadmap for discussions with the business. As we look at the LDMs that Teradata has, they're very understandable by data architects, by Teradata architects, but not so much by the business. So we have to be able to extract value from the LDMs and bring them to life in a business information model so the business can fully understand what it is that they're getting. So as we look at the logical data model and treat it as the roadmap that it is to physical implementation, we can now bring more value to the logical data model by making it understandable by the business in an easy to customize business information model. We also use the business information model to push forward into the semantic layer so that when the business designs the business model, that's what they get in their BI access layer as well. So you have continuity all the way through from business concept through to physical implementation and on to business intelligence tool in the access layer. So as we look at where the bulk of the work is done in a warehouse environment, looking everywhere from requirements analysis through modeling and data integration and all the way on to release to production, these are the areas that Kaleido targets very aggressively. Gartner did a study a few years back that talked about the disproportionate amount of time that companies spend in data integration. And as you all know, working with ETL can be quite the bear. It's the most time-intensive, money-intensive, and resource-intensive part of the process. Now, their premise was you can invert the curve if you spend more time on requirements analysis and modeling up front. I don't necessarily agree with the second part. I don't think you need to spend more time on requirements and analysis and the modeling piece. I think you can do it more effectively and leverage the information gathered in those upfront pieces to further reduce the time in requirements analysis by 30%, and even to reduce the modeling piece by as much as 50%. And not only that, we're simplifying the environment because there's only a single model to maintain now. We don't have the conceptual model, the logical model, and the series of physical models to maintain. So why specifically on Teradata? Well, Kaleido builds data warehouses fast. So we look to build a high-quality foundation for analytics in 90 days or less. These are not just throwaway data marts that we're building. We're actually incrementally building out the foundation for analytics so that your enterprise data warehouse evolves over time. Full integration from the business model all the way down through the physical instantiation of the warehouse and out to the BI access layer. It creates an agile environment, accelerating time to value with a very low total cost of ownership. To learn more, please take the time to view some of our other presentations. Our second presentation, Automation and Agility Without ETL Tools, will address the data integration issue. And then the access layer made easy, delivering the right data fast, we'll talk about enabling the BI access layer. And also, for more details about data integration and how to sunset your ETL for data warehousing.